This area here is a new logging cut under development. It's just opened perhaps in the last 2 weeks. And I'm walking up the road here. These roads are relatively wide to allow for the great big tractor trailers to maneuver in here. But if you look right there, that area has already been cut. And as you can see, it's by no means clear cut. There's still a lot of trees in there and no bare ground to speak of, really. You might also notice that there's a huge variety of trees in here. This is a absolute necessity to have a happy forest. By that I mean, if you have a forest, for example, that's been replanted, it's one type of tree and one age group of those trees, you're not going to have a forest that's going to sustain itself over a period of time. The wildlife won't live there. There's no food for them. If there's nothing but spruce trees or various evergreen trees, there's no food crops for so many of the different animals that can't eat that type of material. Just about moose are just about the only ones that can. So you have to have poplar trees and birch trees and ash trees you need in undergrowth. By opening up these areas like this, you're benefiting the population of the animals by causing open areas where the undergrowth can get reestablished. And within a year or two, the willows and the alders and the raspberries and so many other plants that are indigenous to this area will have this whole area green and covered, and it will be an abundant food source for so many animals in this area. It's just something that has to be allowed to happen. You can't go in and clear cut an area, stick a few seedlings in the ground, and say that you've done a good job. This yellow sign here indicates that the road, which is basically an ice road, crosses a water area. What happens here is that the trucks carrying huge loads, because they weigh tens of thousands of pounds when they're full of logs, must slow down when they're traversing this area. If those big trucks were to cross that area at a higher speed, you can see here, this is all a marshy area. In a moment here you'll be able to see that there's actually a running river going through this. There it's coming into view now, and you can see where it goes from the right side of the screen roughly to the middle and then straight off into the distance. But as I was saying, if these trucks were to cross these areas at much speed, they would cause a hydraulic pressure wave basically under this ice, and it would cause a lot of environmental destruction in the water bed area, the river beds, and that's all soft and muck in these areas here, and it would cause a lot of damage. Now, no doubt, some of these practices of slowing down and being cautious about leaving trees in the area probably cut back on profitability, almost for sure, but it's the only responsible, sustainable way to be able to handle this and still have something to come back to and not just tear it all to pieces. This area here is a private property cutting area for just personal firewood from a local, and as you'll be able to see in a moment here, this has even a much smaller impact on the land, of course, because it's not a commercial operation. The amount of wood coming out of here will be minimal compared to even the smallest commercial operation. But I'm showing you here some tracks, and there are many tracks in here, and there are moose, coyotes, rabbits, foxes, you name it. There's all kinds of them in here, and the reason that is because this forest has that variety of different trees, and it's a healthy environment where these animals can thrive. As in the big commercial operations, basically the machinery goes in and it makes pathways like spokes from the central hub. They need a bit of an area to get turned around and so on. And these spokes lead off a distance into the bush, and they allow the machine to go in there. The cutters cut down a few trees on one side, they'll cut down a few trees on the other side, and then the skidder can bring those trees out that one road. That means that they're not just running all over the place, knocking trees down with equipment. They're following dedicated pathways, and by all means they're minimizing the damage and still able to harvest a significant amount of wood out of an area that really doesn't show a whole lot of impact from that. This log here, as you'll see in a moment, is probably 6 or 7 inches in diameter at the most. You can see it next to my hand. I have counted 57 rings on this tree. That's how old that tree is. The environment here is so cold with such a short growing season that it takes a long time for these trees to get to be any size. This rack here is some of the firewood that's ready to be hauled out. As you can see, they're in about 3 foot lengths, maybe 40 inches, and these are the size of the logs that a lot of the boilers burn on, even on some of the private residences. And it's got a lot of different varieties of wood in here. Here you're going to see black ash, and it's look at the grain on that. That's pretty nice. I would actually wouldn't mind taking about 4 or 5 inches off the end of that and making a butcher block out of it. I might just actually do that. It looks pretty good. But these logs will be hauled out of here, and then towards the end of this video you'll see how whoa, look at this. You may have been able to hear, but it's very, very windy out here today, and that tree just broke off from the wind and broke in half and fell down. It's only about 15 yards away from where I was standing, so you know, you've got to be cautious when you're out in the woods and keep yourself away from these types of things. Just have your wits about you in general to keep yourself from getting into some pretty serious trouble. Wouldn't want to be under that one, would you? That would make a real mess. Better come back, Timber. Our environment is a precious gift. It keeps us alive. You would think that we would treat it with the utmost respect, but sadly this is not the case. This is where we run into a real problem. Studies show that our planet can sustain a population of 4 billion people. Our current population is now well over 7 billion and growing fast. As a natural species on this planet, humans have the right to use natural resources to survive. However, with a massive population and greed and wasteful lifestyles, we are depleting our resources at an alarming rate. In addition to that, strip mining, commercial overfishing, mining for gold and diamonds for profit, and a number of other items similar to that is causing habitat loss, excessive pollutions. Soon our oceans will have more plastic and garbage than they will fish. Forestry, at least when it's done properly, as we have shown, is at least renewable. Here, cutting is not clearing the land to bare ground, but it leaves a lot of trees of different species. This is actually a benefit to wildlife by encouraging new growth, food resources, bedding areas, and sustainable harvest, and habitat. Now, I'm not a logger, nor have I ever been a logger, but I live here. I live in this remote area, and I see for myself the pros and cons of these activities. I know there are many groups out there talking about environments, the so-called tree huggers. Well, maybe that's not a fair description to lump everyone into. But now I come to the point of this video. If you are truly interested in doing some real good, then stop. Stop and take a good look for yourself. See for yourself. Research for yourself. Visit some of these sites if you can. Don't just repeat what you have heard that somebody else heard from someone else. By repeating incorrect misinformation, you are causing far more harm than good. We all know that this has to change. We will accomplish much more by working it out together than will be possible if we oppose each other in ignorance. I would like to offer this as an open tag. I don't want to tag anybody specifically, but if you feel you've got something that you can add to this, by all means, please join in. To anyone who followed through till the end of this video, I want to thank you very much. And to everyone else, stay warm, have a safe and happy week. See you all down the trail.